So first of all, welcome everybody to this special Let's Play for the month of July. People might notice that we're actually on the banner right now and not necessarily in the game. There's a reason for it, because when we kick into the game, it's actually going to start right into the story. We can't really stop it. So this year we have something a little bit special. I know that we've done the last couple of Let's Plays we've done with point-and-click adventures has been, we did an indie game. Mm-hmm. Literally an indie game, Indiana Jones. And we also, which was funny, but it also had a lot of good preface to it. And then we also did Monkey Island, which is mostly a funny kind of game. But adventure games are also known for having really good, serious plots kind of thing. And so this time around, I actually went into the catalog and but wanted to do this one because I had a feeling that yes, you appreciate the humor, Alex, but you would also appreciate some of the serious games too, especially this one, and given the background that it has. And we're going to be doing LucasArts The Dig. So just to give a little bit of backstory here, this is around the time when adventure games were actually kind of dying out, because a little-known game called Wolfenstein 3D had come out, and later its compatriot Doom, and therefore first-person shooters were coming into full swing. Mm-hmm. And therefore, LucasArts, as well as Sierra and a couple of other places, started to realize that adventure games were not as profitable as they were back in the day. And so, unfortunately, LucasArts and Sierra and a couple of other adventure companies had to move to that. But they actually created some really good gems in the genre that nobody really played. The best example is, you remember a couple of years ago when there was such big hype over Grim Fandango Remastered.
Right.
Because nobody really played it. There were a few that did, that actually got a copy and were able to play it, but they were very few and far between. The Dig is another example of this, and we'll get into some of the bigger examples when we're in the game, but one thing I wanted to point out that I think specifically you would appreciate is one of the writing credits that is on this game is, I don't know, he's a guy you might have heard about. He's done some movies here and there, especially during the 90s. I don't know, does the name Steven Spielberg sound familiar?
Oh.
This is a game that was actually written by Steven Spielberg, or he co-wrote it, because the director Sean Clark also played into it. But I wanted to point that out. This is like the first kind of indication of celebrity involvement in adventure games. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the Dig, and we'll go into the details as we go along, but I kind of wanted to go into that just to give people kind of a preface of what was going on at the time to influence this game as it was coming out. So with that, let's go ahead and get started right into the story, because that's exactly how it happens.
LucasArts.
So here is the Dig.
Now the Dig.
The Borneo Deep Space Observatory.
Of course I miss you, darling.
Hi, Steve Bloom.
This is the loneliest place on Earth. Most exciting thing ever happens here is the day when it don't rain. Excuse me, darling, I got some work to do.
So tracking a new object, calculating the trajectory. That's a hard word to say, by the way. Earth collision possible. Calculating odds of impact. Uh-oh.
Get on in here, Pete. You got us a big old asteroid on a 3-week collision course with Earth.
1 in 1. So this thing is going to hit. The Dig.
Trademark.
Trademark. Yep. Trademark.
The asteroid has been named Attila, after the war leader of the Huns, who devastated
this guy
Europe just before the fall of the Roman Empire.
I've heard this guy do a newscaster voice numerous times. I can't remember his name, though.
Tracking station in Borneo. According to NASA sources, the probability of impact with Earth is 99%.
In other words, we be fucked.
Ignite
We're sure we're not playing a video game version of Armageddon.
I know, right? Especially when we get into the actual solution, you might actually have a better comparison.
This is not a mission the shuttle was designed for. But as Mission Commander Boston Lowe said in the press conference last night,
if the shuttle is the last hope of the human race, then it'll have to do the job, won't it? Wait a minute, folks. Let me introduce the landing team.
Yes, this is very
Luke
pixelated.
Brink is a noted geologist. He'll evaluate our data on placement of the nuclear devices.
We have to be accurate.
Hi, Steve Bloom.
The idea isn't to blow Attila to bits. If we did, some of the pieces would certainly hit Earth with devastating effect.
And now I hardly have to introduce Maggie Robbins to you. She's probably the most well-known journalist in the world.
Maggie, you're famous for having once said that you never put up with censorship in any form. Now you're under NASA command.
Miss Robbins is a reporter by vocation, but on this mission she's...
I think I can answer the question myself, Commander Lowe. Danny, I trained for this
I'm
mission.
really
I
serious.
have work to do in laying the nuclear charges. When I come home, I'll be a
Programmers.
reporter and tell you all about it.
And before we start getting before we start getting questions about the graphics, this game came out in 1995, people,
Maggie
Yeah.
Robbins obeys orders.
which is even more important because, again, Steven Spielberg is a writer. This was right off the heel of Jurassic Park.
Right.
So, or Jurassic Park.
Right. Animators.
We wanted the
Animators.
best and the brightest for this mission. Dr. Brink and Ms. Robbins are not narrow specialists. They are resourceful, widely educated, and creative thinkers.
Does that apply to you too, Commander Lowe?
Insane animation system.
My job is to keep everybody alive.
And fart really bad.
I don't have to be brilliant. I just have to be careful. The other two crew members will remain with the shuttle. Ken Borden is the most experienced shuttle pilot we have. Cora Miles is our payload specialist. As you all know, she's a candidate for Congress, but we figured saving the planet is more important than campaigning.
It's cheaper too.
It is technically cheaper.
Any parting message for the people of Earth?
Ambient sound.
We have exactly one chance. And we've got to do it right. Let all your prayers be with us.
Orson Scott Card.
This is the one part that I think a lot of people are going to have problems with, is that his credit is also on this. He did actually write the book adaptation for The Dig. And
He
I know
also-
people hate him, but
Yeah.
guys,
Well, he also wrote for Monkey Island.
he did, yeah.
Yeah. Based on a concept by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, little known guy. You might have heard of him.
Yeah, you know, did a few art house movies.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park, Hook, at this point, Schindler's List.
Well, Hook was the late 80s, so...
No, it's 91.
Oh,
I
you're
actually
right,
looked it up.
91. I don't know why I was thinking that's 80s. But...
Robbins here.
That's what I'm saying, is that this game was coming off the heels of Hook, Schindler's List, and Jurassic Park.
Welcome to the
That's-
wonderful world of space.
That's who Steven Spielberg was at this point.
And
I'll be careful, Commander.
Brink here, going independent.
Howdy, Brink. Welcome to the place where geology and astronomy meet.
A professor once told me, astronomers are geologists with clean hands and a squint.
You going to quote him on that in some magazine, Robbins?
I'm just part of the landing team right now, Commander Lowe.
Okay, so really quick, before we get into too much detail here, I actually want to point out the cast. This is actually one of the first few indications, or one of them, that celebrity involvement started happening with games. And so obviously you can recognize the voice of Stephen Bloom in Luke Brink. He actually plays like 3 roles in this game. The one notable one you might have noticed, since you're an X-Files fan, is one Robert Patrick. He actually plays Boston Lowe.
oh,
And so at that point, the T-1000 himself has come out and has voiced this. He's kind of the celebrity power behind it, aside from Steven Spielberg. The person who plays Maggie Robbins, because these are the 3 that we're going to interact with for most of the game, is played by Mary Schiller. I think that's how you say her name. unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to her. She's done a lot of TV. She's done a lot of side roles in movies and games. But she's never really kind of broken out on her own. But she was credible at that time in the 90s. Like, she had done stuff like Friends and I'm trying to remember some other 90s series. Law and Order. She'd done some stuff for both the original and Special Victims Unit. So she's done quite a bit. But with that, we also have our 2 others, but these are pretty much the 3 we're going to interact with throughout the game. And people might be a little confused also. This is called The Dig, but we're in space.
Because we're going to be digging on an asteroid.
Oh, apparently so.
That's why I said this game makes me think of Armageddon.
So, let's just go ahead. And this is also kind of a new interpreter also for adventure
Payload
games.
Specialist Miles needs to use the remote arm to release it.
Yes, it's called The Pig.
Which, fittingly enough, the Armageddon was co-written by J.J. Abrams.
So we do have an arming key. We have a flashlight. We don't have too much to our inventory, but we have this penultimate. Wow, this ought to bring you back to the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even... What were they called? Pocket pads or whatever?
Yeah, like PDAs.
PDAs, yeah. Personal digital assistants. So we have the asteroid lander, which is just like a little mini game, but you can also have the comm. So we can actually talk to... If we talk to Brink or Maggie right now, it's just going to go to their discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually do want to bring this one up for Cora.
Miles, come in, Miles.
Yeah, Boston, I'm on you. You wish. In your dreams.
Because technically she's in charge of the pig, and we need the pig. So let's go ahead and ask her for it.
The deployment of the free fall tool chest.
Is the crew clear of the area?
Crew is clear. Proceed.
Now, there's a lot of funny dialogue in this game, but it takes a lot to get to it, so we might hit some of it, but not all.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we will be in this segment and others for a long time.
Right.
Yes, because that cutscene was necessary. Woohoo! Look, I think this game is good, people. I'm not saying it doesn't have problems.
Very cinematic.
Yeah, well... that's kind of the direction LucasArts was going until Doom came down the market.
Mm-hmm.
So
You just be good to my baby.
So one of the ones we are going to do though is a lot of interactions with Cora are pretty funny.
Miles,
So
Miles here.
and also we do have you're used to the dialogue trees that we had in like Monkey Island and stuff like that. This
Right.
actually in the latter years replaced the dialogue tree. It actually showed us objects instead that we could directly talk about. But we
Say
also have
something
the option to
profound.
ask a question or say something profound. And as you notice, she actually said she was a congressional candidate, so a lot of his profound stuff is.
I'll miss you when I can't take you with me on missions like this.
Don't get sentimental on me, Boston. Besides, there won't be any more missions like this.
Let's see.
I'll miss you when I can't take you with me on missions like this.
Don't get sentimental on me, Boston. Besides,
Crap.
there won't be any more missions like this.
Do I actually have to ask her a question first to get that
How's
stuff?
the
Probably.
congressional campaign going without
There we go.
you?
Well, my opponent is demanding equal time in space.
With or without us?
Just don't screw up the mission, Boston, and I'll be in Congress next January.
I
Okay.
just want you to know you've got my vote, Cora.
Till my opponent offers you more money.
And you actually can keep going with
I just
this.
want you to know you've got my vote, Cora.
Only if you move to Mississippi, Boston.
I just want you to know you've got my vote, Cora.
Maybe if somebody helps you figure out the levers in the voting booth.
So you can kind of tell. Boss is like military grunt, you know?
I just want you to know you've got my vote, Cora.
Oh, you finally learned how to make an X.
That's pretty much the only ones that are funny. He'll keep this going for a while, but I like that one. Oh, you finally learned how to make an X. So at that point, we actually need to talk to Ken.
Gordon, this is Lowe. Do you read?
I'm here, boss.
I'm here, boss. So we actually need to talk to him about the nuclear
Give us
explosives.
the go-ahead on the explosives, Ken.
Plant Alpha Charge in Quadrant 2. Make sure you get it on a level surface so Attila blows in the right direction.
Okay, and then we'll just ask him about
How's
the
our
pig.
little piggy?
Ugly as ever, but Cora might have a different opinion.
And I'm trying to remember, does he have anything funny to say about being
You
profound?
ready for us to part company, Ken?
Everything's in position, boss.
We have
Question.
position, Ken.
Attila's given us less gravity than I expected, but the attitude jets are compensating.
He does have funny things to say, but it's hard to come across them. Let's go ahead and exit. And just really quick, I want to make sure I don't miss anything with Brink or Maggie, because once we actually get a little bit further, this dialogue will not be available.
Robbins, this is Lowe. Do you read?
Robbins here. I read you.
We can ask her about Brink.
What do you
Sure.
think of our archaeologist, Brink?
I'm very impressed with his experience. He headed the U.S. Geological Survey team that mapped the surface of Venus.
You'll be taking a close look at the asteroid to make certain the detonation points they've chosen are suitable.
So that's actually one thing we missed in the dialogue, is that not only is Ludger Brink a noted geologist, that's why he's on this mission, but he also is a noted archaeologist. So he's already done that too. So one of the reporters was asking, is there a reason that you brought him on, that he's also a noted archaeologist? Of course. Maggie also is a noted journalist. In fact, she's the way that the story kind of tells it in the book is that I actually never read the book, but it goes into more detail. I had to look this up on the Wikipedia entry, people. It's that old. But Maggie was also a very controversial journalist. Like, she'd be the Sean Hannity, the Glenn Beck of our time, you know, where she was asking the hard questions kind of thing. Or, no, the best example would be something Tapper. He's on CNN. That's the kind of reporter she is. But she's also a noted linguist. So she knows like 5 or 6 different languages.
Right.
And is adept at learning languages. So
cool.
at that point, something else to consider about her. Let's just ask
Have
say
you
something
looked up
profound.
at the Earth yet, Robbins?
Oh, is that big blue thing the Earth?
No, it's not. I thought you were smarter than this, Robbins. Ask a question.
Did you see for your first article?
I'm not writing my article right now, Commander Lowe.
And you actually can push her, and she'll get into like a really big rant, but we're not going to do that, because that actually creates some issues later. So let's go ahead and stop talking to Maggie.
Brink.
Let's talk to Brink.
Come in, Brink. Brink here. I read you.
Tell us about Maggie.
What do you think of our star reporter? Very unorthodox, bringing a reporter on a space mission. But she is very capable, and she writes interesting stories.
So he's very German. He doesn't know if he likes her or not.
Happy to set foot on a new world, Brink? Attila is a very old world, Commander. It is merely new to us.
Okay, so ask
Are
a
you
question.
getting a good look at the asteroid, Brink? I have hardly looked at anything else, Commander.
You could technically ask them both about the pig and the nuclear explosives. They can't really add anything to it, so I probably will ignore those kinds of concepts.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and take the pig.
Load a landing team. I'm taking the pig down to the surface. Follow me.
You be good to my baby, Boston, you hear me?
We'll be back soon, Cora. Try not to miss me too much. Blow out.
So you'll notice that Maggie gets jabbed a lot, or ribbed a lot in this one, because of her standing. It's going to be kind of a thing for her, at least in the opening part of the game. Let's go ahead and go to the pig, because it is a free fall tool chest, so it's going to give us a lot of the things that we need. Let's go ahead and open it up. And so we got a shovel, we have a 0G digger, and then we have the explosive units. So when I said it was close enough to Armageddon, I wasn't wrong. We're going to be planting nukes on the surface. We're just not drilling.
Right.
So, but we do technically have a drill with us, so I guess that qualifies too. So, unfortunately, we are actually not in the right quadrant. So let's go ahead and go to space. Space! And so all of this is quadrants. Go over to quadrant 2 here, because this is where Ken told us to put the first charge. And here's the target surface, but if you notice when he
It's where explosive
looks at
alpha
it.
should be placed.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put the explosive charge there, because that's what we need to do.
The ground's too rough to attach the charge.
Oh no. Okay, so here's what we can do. We have a 0G digger, our drill, and we're going to go ahead and use it on the target surface.
If we can clear up old Attila's complexion.
I really love the
Nice and
atmosphere
smooth
here.
now.
What was that?
I really am loving the atmosphere that they're doing with the music. And
Yeah, that one of the things that I actually think kind of pushes this game really hard is atmosphere, especially when we get later on, because like I said, most of our interactions will be with these three, so that's really going to help. Now we can put on explosive unit Alpha, put it on the dirt.
Shuttle, this is Low. We're placing the explosive in Quadrant 2.
Acknowledged.
Could you give me a hand with this break?
I'll be right there, Commander Low.
All right, so we now have explosive unit Alpha in place.
Excellent work, Brink. Ken, the charge is set.
Instruments confirmed. Hey, I'm just so proud of you boys.
And again, these are nuclear weapons, so already that's kind of alarming. So go ahead and use this arming key.
Look at the pretty red light, boys and girls. I'd say this charge is armed.
Okay, so with that, we now have that done. Let's get our next task from Ken.
Gordon, do you copy?
I'm here, boss.
Looks like the nuke is set in this quadrant, Ken.
Keep trucking, boss.
Ah, crap. We may actually need to go to the other area to get it. Because we need to get our next orders. You know, where are we supposed to put this second charge? Well, I know, but you don't.
yes.
Okay, so with that, let's use it.
Gordon,
On
this
board.
is Low. Do you read?
I read you, Low. What is it?
Give us the go-ahead on the explosives, Ken.
Plant beta charge in Quadrant 3. Make sure you get it on a level surface so Attila blows in the right direction.
Okay, so now we know where we need to go. Let's go out to space. To space!
I'm in space.
I'm in space. Portal 2. I got it!
There you go.
Space! I'm in space. We get that question a lot, like, when are we going to do Portal 2? We'll get to it, people.
Yeah.
We have to. We have to.
We really do.
It is awesome. Okay, so we only have one thing to click on, so this must be the target surface. So let's go ahead and take explosive beta and put it on the boulder.
I can't use these two things together.
Okay, so we can't put it on there. Let's see if the zero-G digger will take care of the boulder.
Guess what, boys and girls? Using the zero-G digger on this boulder is gonna work just as well as trying to move a sand dune with a teaspoon. We better think of something else.
Better find out what Mission Control suggests.
Mission Control? I'm not calling Houston until I'm sure there's nothing we can do. Just think for a minute.
But we actually do have another tool. Maybe that'll work. So let's go ahead and use the shovel with the boulder.
Ken, I'm jamming the shovel in under the boulder, then using maximum down thrust to pry it up. Does that sound workable?
Well, I'm a little short on data about the tensile strength of shovel handles in zero-G under maximum thrust conditions. In other words, who knows? Might work.
Boss, be careful. If the handle breaks, maximum down thrust will smash you right into Attila. You know the saying, whether the stone hits the glass or the glass hits the stone, it ain't gonna hurt the stone.
Thanks for the encouragement, Ken. Frank, if this actually works, the boulder's going to come flying straight at you. Better fly clear.
Thanks for the warning.
I don't know why Lowe's really kind of reminded me of George Clooney.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like it worked.
Now, aren't you glad I made sure the tool chest had a shovel in it? My rule is, if you can pick it up, take it with you, because you never know when you might need it.
I have the same rule, Cora, but I thought it only applied to women in bars. If you can pick her up...
Careful, Ken. You don't want to find yourself getting quoted as a sexist pig in Maggie's article. I'm not here to spy on you.
Lighten up, Robbins. They're just teasing you. If they thought you were really a spy, they'd never talk freely on the open frequency.
Which is true. Because they're military types, and therefore, if they thought you were going to report this, they'd stay quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, normally a reporter wouldn't even be brought in on a mission like this. So, put the beta charge.
Now placing the explosive on the face of the asteroid in Quadrant 3.
Acknowledged.
I need another hand here, Brink.
Of course, Commander.
We get to wait for Brink to come over. Come on over, Brink!